I knew things had finally crossed a line the morning I found a 70,000-pound Escalade sitting dead center in my cornfield, all four tires blown to ribbons rims, carved open like metal flowers. Victoria Dalton, the HOA treasurer who spent 6 months terrorizing my land, was pacing around it screaming into her phone like the world owed her an apology. And the wildest part, her entire meltdown was about to be recorded, reported, and weaponized against herself. But to understand how we got here, you need to know how a quiet rancher like me ended up in a war I never asked for. My name is Marcus Hale, 47 years old, former logistics manager who spent way too many years in windowless meeting rooms arguing about shipment deadlines and barcode discrepancies. I burned out long before I admitted it. When I finally walked away, I'd saved enough to buy 80 acres of land, not because I wanted to be a farmer, but because I wanted peace. I wanted quiet. I wanted a life where the only thing I had to negotiate with was the weather. The land I found was perfect. Nebraska soil, a creek running along the east side, a barn begging to be restored, and best of all, it sat outside. The boundaries of Silverbrook Estates, the HOA I'd heard horror stories about from locals. Their board was famous for writing citations for the color of someone's curtains. No thank you. I placed my money where the rules couldn't reach me. I settled in, repaired the barn, started with cattle, planted corn and soybeans, fixed up the driveway myself. Life felt good in a way I didn't even remember was possible. And then about 6 months after moving in, I heard the unmistakable roar of an engine where no engine should ever be. Imagine standing in your field, coffee in hand, watching a white Escalade plow through rows of corn like it's a damn parade float. I froze. My brain couldn't even process it. This wasn't a dirt path. This was my land, my crops, my hard work. The SUV cut diagonally across the property and disappeared behind the tree line like nothing happened. 2 days later it happened again. Same vehicle, same route, same total disregard for my existence. By the third time I'd had enough. I took my truck and blocked her path. The Escalade skidded to a stop in front of me and the window rolled down. And there she was, Victoria Dalton, designer sunglasses, glossy hair, irritated expression like I was the problem. "Move your truck," she said, flicking her hand like she was swatting at a fly. "This is private property," I told her. "You can't just drive through my field." She actually laughed. "There's an easement, from the 60s, in the county records. I have every right to use it. You're new here, so you wouldn't understand." I asked her to show me the documents. She waved me off, put her sunglasses back on, and drove around, my truck crunching another row of corn in the process. I could feel my pulse in my teeth. The next morning I called my lawyer, Jim. He did a full title search and called me back sounding almost amused. "Marcus, there is no easement. Not now, not historically, not in any database." Great. Clear as day. So I put up signs. Big ones. Private property. No trespassing. Do not enter. I sent a certified cease and desist letter with photo signatures, everything. 3 days later, Victoria's Escalade came roaring through like a bull on Black Friday. As she passed my barn, she stuck her hand out the window and released the envelope I'd sent ripped into confetti. That was the moment I realized something important. She wasn't just entitled. She genuinely believed rules did not apply to her. I called the sheriff. Deputy Morrison came out, took photos, listened, nodded, promised to talk to her. When he came back 2 hours later, he looked defeated. "She claims you're harassing her," he said. "And she showed me documents she says prove an easement. Fake papers." I could have screamed. He sighed. "Look, this is a civil dispute unless I catch her in the act and she refuses to leave. You'll probably need to handle this through the courts. Courts, months, thousands of dollars. All to stop a woman from treating my farm like her private shortcut." I felt like the world was stacked against me, like every reasonable solution had been exhausted. But I wasn't prepared for how bad things would get. Victoria started honking her horn every time she drove through, deliberately trying to spook my cattle. She sped up in muddy areas just to fling dirt everywhere. My stress went through the roof, and my animals were paying for it. One morning I found Daisy, one of my best Angus heifers, lying on her side. She'd miscarried. The vet confirmed it's stress-induced trauma. I sat down in the pasture beside her and felt something inside me crack. I actually wondered for a moment if maybe I was overreacting, if maybe moving out here had been a mistake, if maybe people like Victoria always win because no one has the stamina to fight them. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, wondering what kind of world lets someone like her ruin lives without consequence. But the next morning I looked at Daisy again and felt every ounce of doubt burn off. No, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't wrong. Someone was destroying what I'd built, what I cared about, and I had every damn right to defend it. So I started researching. Laws, cases, landowner rights. And that's how I discovered spike strips. Not the cartoon kind that shred cars into pieces, the professional police-grade kind designed to safely deflate tires without injuring anyone. My first thought was, no way this is legal. But after digging and confirming with Jim, I learned the key warnings. Clear, explicit, impossible-to-miss warnings. I nearly smiled for the first time in months. I bought professional spike strips, 3 sets. I installed 30 reflective signs along her route, each one screaming warnings in bold red letters. I documented everything with GPS timestamps, photos from every angle. I sent her one final certified letter showing exactly what I'd done. She signed for it, and I notified the sheriff's department ahead of time, making sure everything I did was legal, transparent, above board. Then I waited. Monday morning, 7:15 a.m. Like clockwork, the Escalade appeared at the edge of my field. I watched her on the monitor from my barn. She drove right past the first warning sign, then the second, then 10 more, not even a tap on the brakes. When her front tires hit the first strip, I heard the pops from inside the barn, sharp, satisfying. The front end dipped. She kept going. 5 seconds later, pop, pop, the rear tires. She braked too late. The second strip tore into what little rubber remained. By the time she reached the third strip, she was riding on rims, sparks kicking up behind her like a busted 4th of July sparkler. Finally, the Escalade groaned to a stop. I saved all recordings to 3 different drives before stepping out. Victoria stumbled from the driver's seat like she'd just survived a bombing run. She screamed into her phone, pointing at the ground, kicking her tire, well, kicking her rim. When she saw me approaching, she pointed at me like she was casting a curse. "You psycho! You tried to kill me! This is attempted murder." I held up my phone and hit record. "You ignored multiple warnings on my private property," I said calmly. "This is the consequence of 6 months of documented trespassing." She shrieked, pacing in circles, yelling into her phone about lawsuits, prison, federal crimes, whatever she could think of. I just waited for the sheriff. When Deputy Morrison arrived, Victoria sprinted toward him like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "Officer, thank God. He set a trap. He set spike strips to kill me. This is community land. There's an easement." Her voice cracked right on cue. Tears, real or fake, started flowing. She tried to gesture at the field as if it were self-explanatory. Morrison raised a hand. "Ma'am, do you have proof of this easement?" "My lawyer has everything," she said. "Just arrest him." But she had nothing. I had everything. I handed Morrison my binder, certified letters, timestamps, property deed photos, the vet report for Daisy, the video of her cutting my gate open with bolt cutters like she was breaking into Fort Knox. Morrison flipped through the documents and exhaled slowly. He turned to Victoria. "Ma'am, based on evidence and repeated warnings, I'm issuing you a citation for criminal trespassing and property damage." Her mouth fell open. "What? No. No, you can't. Richard will have your badge. The HOA owns this easement." "Ma'am," Morrison replied, tone flat, "there is no easement. There never was." Victoria looked like someone had unplugged her from reality. The tow truck arrived. The driver whistled loudly at the state of her rims. She paid nearly $700 just to haul the Escalade home. No husband showed up to help her. No HOA members came running. She'd never looked smaller. And I thought that was the end of it. 2 days later, I learned it was only the beginning. Word of the incident spread across Silverbrook Estates faster than gossip at a barber shop. But it wasn't the spike strips that caught people's attention. It was the question of why the HOA treasurer was fighting a private rancher in the first place. An assistant treasurer named Patricia started asking questions. She dug through financial records. And just like that, Victoria's world cracked open. 40 pages of unauthorized payments. Personal shopping charged to HOA accounts. Spa visits labeled as community wellness. Legal fees billed to the neighborhood budget. A tidy $60,000 siphoned off over 2 years. The HOA board suspended both Victoria and her husband Richard. A forensic audit followed. A criminal report was filed. Victoria wasn't just a trespasser anymore. She was a thief. By the time my court date arrived, she walked in looking like a ghost wearing expensive clothes. No confidence, no sunglasses, no entourage. She pled guilty to trespassing to avoid harsher charges for property destruction. She was ordered to pay me restitution $8,500 and barred from coming within 500 feet of my land. Barely a month later, she was charged with embezzlement. Richard divorced her, claiming ignorance. Silverbrook got new leadership. I rebuilt my fence, reinforced everything, set boundaries that would never again be crossed. And one quiet evening, I stood on my porch, watching the sun fall behind rows of healthy corn, thinking about how all of this, every twist, every escalation, could have been avoided if one entitled person had heard the word no and accepted it. The truth is, simple people who think they're above the rules eventually learn they're not. That's the lesson.